Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Hare Kṛṣṇa, dear devotees, please join us today in the study of Śrīmad Bhagavatam. Today we'll be studying Śrīmad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, Chapter 5. Śukadeva Gosvāmī's final instructions to Mahārāja Parīkṣit. Hare Kṛṣṇa, please join us for Jai Radha Madhav prayers. Jai Kṛṣṇa, dear devotees. Please join us for Mangalacharan prayers together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirye. Shrotam Svar Katha Kṛṣṇa Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Bhadrani Vidunote Suhatsatam Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Nashtiki. Hare Kṛṣṇa, dear devotees. So today we'll be studying Śrīmad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, Chapter 5. The final instructions, Śukadeva Gosvāmī's final instructions to Mahārāja Parīkṣit. And we will learn the lessons. Some secrets are being revealed, amazing secrets by the Acharyas. And we'll learn the lesson is how to remember Kṛṣṇa throughout the life and especially at the last moment, at the moment of death. So please join us in the recitation of the first verse, Śrīmad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, Chapter 5. Shri Shuka Uvacha.
Shri Śukadeva
Atranu Varnyate Abhikshanam.
Atranu Varnyate Bhikshanam
Vishwatma Bhagavan Harihi.
Vishwatma Bhagavan Hari
Yasya Prasadajo Brahma.
Yasya Prasadajo Brahma
Rudra Krodha Samudbhavaha.
Rudra Krodha Samudbhava.
Shri Shuka Uvacha.
Shri Śukadeva
Shri Śukadeva Gosvāmī said,
Shri Śukadeva Gosvāmī said,
Atra, in this Śrīmad Bhagavatam,
in this Śrīmad Bhagavatam,
Anuvarnayate is elaborately described. Abhikshanam, repeatedly. Vishwa Atma, the soul of the entire universe. Bhagwan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Harihi, Lord Hari. Yasya, of whom. Prasad, from the satisfaction. Jaha, born. Brahma, Lord Brahma. Rudra, Lord Shiva. Krodha, from the anger. Samudbhava, whose birth. By the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Śukadeva Gosvāmī said, this Śrīmad Bhagavatam has elaborately described in various narrations the Supreme Soul of all, that be, the personality of Godhead, Hari, from whose satisfaction Brahma is born, and from whose anger Rudra takes birth. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given an elaborate summary of Śrīmad Bhagavatam in his commentary on this verse. The essence of the great Acharya's statement is that unconditional loving surrender to the Supreme Lord Kṛṣṇa, as described by Śukadeva Gosvāmī, is the highest perfection of life. The exclusive purpose of Śrīmad Bhagavatam is to convince the conditioned soul to execute such surrender to the Lord and go back home, back to Godhead. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Please join us in the Guru Pranati. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paśyatya Deshatarine Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Deenatarinam. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Kṛṣṇa, dear devotees. So today is a very short but very important lesson. This chapter only has 13 verses, but the lesson is amazing in each verse. There are amazing lessons, and as we heard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given an elaborate commentary on the very first verse. And the first verse is where it has been revealed that for the satisfaction of Lord Kṛṣṇa, Brahma takes birth because of the desire that he has to be the, one with the creative impetus, with that potential to create this universe, the secondary creation. And then Rudra is born from the anger of Brahma. And how does that happen? We all know. That Lord Brahma, when he was telling the Chaturkumaras to increase the progeny of this universe, they refused. They said, we want to stay in the body of this 5-year-old, just like as 5-year-olds, not caring about this world. We want to engage in devotional service. And seeing that, Lord Brahma became very angry, and from his anger, from his Rudra, Lord Rudradev, Lord Shiva, he appeared from the middle of his eyebrows as this bluish, reddish, the purplish baby. And Lord Shiva, with his anger can annihilate the whole universe. It has been very clearly explained again and again. And at the end of every day of Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva annihilates the 3 planetary systems. And Lord Brahma is, of course, back, he's sleeping till the next day. And he wakes up again the next day and continues the creation of this material universe. So he's doing the same thing again and again. For whose satisfaction? For Lord Krishna's satisfaction. Because that is his prescribed duty, Swadharma. And he is linking this Swadharma with his eternal religion, right? Jivera Swarup Hoya Krishnera Nityadas. So that is the Sanatan Dharma, that we are eternal servant of Lord Krishna. So he is perfectly aligning his Sanatana Dharma with his Swadharma. And that is a very important principle. And in the first canto itself, Sutta Gosvāmī, along with the sages at Naimisharanya, revealed this amazing secret, right? Dharma sanishtita pumsam vishvakshena kathasu yaha na utpadyad yadiratim shram evahi kevalam. So dharma sanishtita pumsam, based on the occupation duty of a human being. If one engages in various kind of activities, the prescribed duties are the pious activities following the injunctions of the Shastras, right? Vishvakshena kathasu na utpadyad yadiratim. If it does not invoke attraction to the lotus feet, towards the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna, then it is shram evahi kevalam, then it is just useless labor. So we have to understand that every activity we do, we should be doing it as an offering at the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna. We should be remembering this, that yes, my dear Lord, you want me to do this, prescribed duties, so I want to carry it out. Not with the fruitive mindset, but rather with the surrendered mindset. So we should be fully surrendered. So constantly thinking of Lord Shri Krishna, that is possible. So in the previous chapter, yesterday, in the previous class, we covered some amazing factors. So I will quickly revise that and directly dive into this particular chapter. So in the previous chapter, the 4 categories of universal annihilations, they were discussed. The first one was Naimittika, which is occasional. And this Naimittika is at the end of the day of Lord Brahma goes to sleep and Lord Shiva causes this material universe to burn, and then next day when Lord Brahma wakes up, he sees that everything is gone, so he has to start again. Now I had a personal experience of this. When we were kids, we would make some amazing models, right, for the schoolwork. And So I had made a very nice elaborate model, and thinking that yes, it is all going to be fine, I had placed it in a veranda, and it's like outside the house, but it's still under the shade. And went to sleep. That next morning, I have spent the whole day in making this great model. Literally, it took me 12 hours or more. And next morning, when I woke up, what do I see? That the rain happened. And sometimes in India, the rain, when it's raining, heavy rains are happening, the wind is also very strong. So apparently, even though it was under a large shade, the wind had blown over. And all this means, again, it was made up of cardboards and a lot of glue and all that stuff. It had melted, all the glue and everything had dissolved, and the whole board was looking literally flat. Everything had settled down. It was completely gone. So I had this feeling, and when I remembered this, I was thinking, how was Lord Brahma feeling? He created, means in his whole day, he's creating this material universe, the secondary creation. And then next morning he wakes up, and he sees everything is gone. So he has to start again. Yet at the same time, he understands that it is his duty to create. So he's carrying it out as a duty. He's not getting upset at, Lord Shiva, that why do you keep destroying everything when I go to sleep? It's like behind my back, you're taking care of things which I don't want, maybe. He has to start again. But in reality, it is a great blessing because he has a fresh start. He learns, what he did previous time, and then those lessons are important, right? When we do something, we may make some mistakes. So we realize that next time when we are doing the same activity, then we don't make those mistakes. So that is a lesson learned. So when we take lessons from our mistakes, we improve ourselves. So that is an important lesson that we learn from Naimittika, the occasional annihilation of this material universe. And then next one is Prakratika. This is total material creation when Lord Brahma's lifespan is over. So after 100 years of Lord Brahma's time, the whole universe is annihilated and everything merges back into Pradhan, which is the female impetus for this material creation. When agitated by time, again the material universe comes into being. So that was Prakratika. Then there is a constant Nityada, annihilation, which is our transmigration from one material body to another. So we as living entities are in this material world, and based on our thought at the last moment of our life, right? Whatever our thoughts are, that's the destination we attain. And who's the carrier? Mind is the carrier. That's why mind has been stressed again and again in the scriptures. So this constant annihilation causes, at the end of individual living entity's life, the mind carries based on one's thoughts. And that is also known as, means in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Kṛṣṇa reveals this secret as a shloka, and we refer to this as a shloka, Yami shloka. And you will understand why we call it Yami shloka. Yam yam vape smaran bhavam tajyanta anta kalevaram tam tam evati kanteya sada tad bhava bhavita. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. Whatever one thinks at the last moment of one's life, tam tam, smaran tajyanta anta kalevaram. So at the last moment of life, tam tam evati kanteya sada tad bhava bhavita. To that destination one attains. So this is very important. So if we are thinking of something, like Puranjana, he was thinking of Puranjani. So in his next life, he becomes a woman. Bharat Maharaj, he was thinking of deer at the last moment, right? And in the next life, he gets the body of a deer. So it is very important for us to understand who we are thinking of. So we should be thinking of Lord Kṛṣṇa. That doesn't mean we become Lord Kṛṣṇa. But yes, we become servant of Lord Kṛṣṇa. We become one from that aspect. And there is a verse in this chapter which actually sometimes is used by Mayavadis to say, oh, see right there, it is said that Kṛṣṇa and I are one. But it's we are one based on the quality, while we are different on the quantity. So that's where we understand what is our constitutional position. Jivera Swarupoya Kṛṣṇa Nityadas. And then second line we generally don't say because we understand what it is. But it is very important to understand that second part of this verse. Kṛṣṇera Tathashta Shakti Bhed Abhed Prakash. So the living entities are eternal servant. Jivera Swarupoya Kṛṣṇa Nityadas. Now what is the next part? Kṛṣṇera Tathashta Shakti. So we are the marginal energy of Lord Shri Krishna. Bhed Abhed Prakash. So we are simultaneously one and then different. So same and different. How could we be simultaneously same and different? So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reveals this very nicely, and perfect questions, perfect answers. There Srila Prabhupada is also discussing the response. The answer is, how can we be simultaneously same and different? That we have the same quality. Qualitatively we are same. Just like from the ocean, if we extract, a drop of ocean water, then the drop is same in quality with the ocean. But quantity wise, the drop is minuscule while the ocean is unlimited. So we are finite and Lord Krishna is infinite. So that is an important aspect for us to understand. And then there is this relationship, right? The sambandha. Sambandha is we are eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna, which makes him our eternal master. That's why Srila Prabhupada calls him again and again the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is a very important aspect. And when we understand, okay, so we are eternal servant of Lord Krishna and we act in that manner, we act to take the next step. After Sambandha comes Abhideya, which is the process. So what is the process? Process is to engage in devotional service, taking shelter at the lotus feet of a spiritual master. So Chaitya Guru, Lord Krishna is Chaitya Guru. He is residing in our heart as Super Soul, Paramatma. And as overseer and permitter, he is seeing all our activities and is permitting our desires. And only those desires that he permits are carried out by the body, which is made up of the material nature, the three modes of material nature. We kind of discussed that yesterday, how the five elements merge into, Mahāt Tattva, how Mahāt Tattva merges into false ego in mode of ignorance. And then finally, that, the false ego with all the three modes effect, under those effects, merges into the three modes of material nature, which further merges into Pradhan, the mother. So we have to understand from the potency perspective that we are living entities having this material body to engage in our constitutional position. And so the process is we have to engage in devotional service. That is the process. And it simply starts with the chanting of the holy name. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. This is a prayer that we are, presenting with our heart fully imbued with this mood of humility and tolerance, and worshipping Lord Krishna through our prayers by saying, oh please Mother Radha, oh Lord Krishna, please engage me in your devotional service. So it is a privilege to get devotional service. And when we get devotional service, we carry out with full attention. Why? Because this process will help us lead to the final goal. And what's that final goal? Love of Godhead. So Sambandha Abhideya, Sambandh is relationship, understanding the relationship we have, what is our position, what's Lord Krishna's positions, the relationship we have. Then to be able to act in that relationship is by carrying out devotional service. That's Abhideya, that is the journey. And at the end of the journey, we reach the destination, Prayojana, and that Prayojana, the goal is love of Godhead. So we all want to attain love of Godhead, so that we experience the transcendental bliss that even Jnanis and Yogis and Karmis and Karma Yogis, they cannot, attain, they cannot experience, because it is full of transcendental bliss, full of happiness, as per our original constitutional position. Now here, the fourth one, the fourth type of annihilation we discussed yesterday was Atyantika. Atyantika is the final annihilation, which is liberation, because till that annihilation happens, we are actually facing death at every moment. So what is real death? If somebody asks, what is real death? Then the real death is the covering of one's eternal Kṛṣṇa consciousness. We are all Kṛṣṇa conscious. All living entities are Kṛṣṇa conscious. That's why we say that we should not offend any living entity, because every living entity is an eternal servant of Lord Kṛṣṇa. Some know it, some don't. So that is an important aspect. We have to understand that we should be respectful towards all living entities, understanding that each one of us have at least one quality that gives satisfaction to Lord Kṛṣṇa that no other living entity can give. So that quality each one of us makes each of us unique. And so with the Atyantika, the final liberation is awakening of Kṛṣṇa consciousness, understanding everything in relationship with Kṛṣṇa. And so we engage in devotional service and we use everything that we have, all our abilities, all our belongings that we think have been given in our supervision, actually have been bestowed as a mercy onto us, so that we engage in satisfying Lord Shri Krishna, Shri Radha Madan Mohanji. And we all understand that we are all seeking happiness, and the only way to get happiness is by making Lord Krishna happy. And when we make him happy, he reciprocates and makes us super happy, right? When we take 1 step towards Krishna, Krishna takes 10 steps towards us. Our steps are puny, maybe a meter long, but Krishna's steps, first step he covers the earth, second step he goes to the end of the universe. These are the 3 steps when he's taking to when Mahārāja Parīkṣit gives him that, yes, I'll give you 3 pieces of land. And then he's asking to Mahārāja Parīkṣit, he's saying, Mahārāja Parīkṣit, where should I put my 3rd foot? 3rd step is still pending, and Mahārāja Parīkṣit, he shows us by his example, Atma Nivedana. He surrenders everything, including his body. He says, my dear Lord, this body that I have still belongs to me. Please place your 3rd step on my head. So amazing, amazing examples and amazing stories we have read throughout Srimad Bhagavatam. And so this Atyantika is the one that Śukadeva Gosvāmī is revealing to Parīkṣit Maharaj. And in this chapter, there are some analogies that were there in the previous chapter, they have been repeated. Like there is this analogy that an ignorant person, he does not understand the difference between the, he differentiates, he thinks that this material universe is separate from the Supreme Lord. And that is the defect, right? And we in this material universe, in this material world, experience 4 kinds of defects. Our senses are imperfect. Human is we have a propensity to make mistakes, right? And then the 3rd one is there is a propensity to cheat. And then the 4th, most important one is the propensity to be deluded. And this, what is the delusion? That we are thinking that this is my body. We are thinking I am this body. And everything that is around me that, is in the possession of this body is mine. So I causes envy and mine causes lust. So what is the impetus? Just like for this body to be moving, the impetus is the presence of soul. The effect, the cause is the presence of soul. The effect is consciousness. We see the body moving, so we understand, yes, there is a living entity in this body. And what is the impetus in case of one thinking that, this material universe, everything that I have in my possession is mine? The impetus is greed. We want to enjoy apart from Lord Shri Krishna. So that is in ignorance. Illusion is because of our ignorance of the true consciousness, true Krishna consciousness, which is our eternal consciousness. So we have to wake up and engage in our true service as eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna. So that's an important lesson, and we all understand how it starts. It starts simply with the chanting of the holy name. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So once Srila Prabhupada, after giving his Srimad Bhagavatam class, was entertaining questions. So one of his disciples asked him, Srila Prabhupada, most of the time we are in Krishna consciousness and sometimes we fall into material consciousness. Srila Prabhupada responded very strongly. He said, actually most of the time you are in material consciousness and only sometimes you are in Krishna consciousness. So that is our awakening, that we are so much busy in carrying out various activities, we may not be thinking of Lord Shri Krishna. When it is time to make bhoga for the deities, the wife may ask, what should I cook today? And then, the husbands would normally say, what, my favorite dish, we haven't cooked it for a week. Maybe it would be a good time to cook that, so we can enjoy. Right there, simply unknowingly, we may make mistakes. But again, there is always opportunity to get up and correct our mistake. He said, for the pleasure of Shri Radha Madan Mohanji, we should make what they like. And what does Krishna like? For that you have to do the research, right? So that, and it is very nourishing to the soul. So we are taking care of this body, very nice. We are taking care of the jiva, very nice. But with right consciousness. This reminds me a similar incident that happened when Srila Prabhupada in 1972. He was, he had gone to Madras and he was returning back, and at that time he was invited at an ashram in Visakhapatnam, Vizag. So there he, with his disciple devotees and secretary and so forth, he stayed there for, the plan was to stay there for 3 days, and then he extended. So when the devotees, they saw Srila Prabhupada entertain, his disciples to go out to the ocean, because Vizag is, at the eastern coast between Calcutta and Madras, so over there on the way. So at the beach, this ashram was there, Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ashram. So again, that was the name of the ashram. So, and it was owned by someone else, not Srila Prabhupada, not the ISKCON society. And there, Srila Prabhupada was invited to stay, and the devotees, they went to the beach and they were in the waves. And there were some, pretty experienced surfers among some of these devotees. They would not call those waves waves. It was just like little disturbance in the water according to them. Yet at the same time, devotees, they went, it was very nice beach, very calm waters, and they were bathing, and then they would come back. And so Srila Prabhupada was explaining that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, they really liked this beach a lot. So they would go to the beach and they would spend, most of the part of the day, in the waters. And then the response came from the secretaries, Srila Prabhupada, isn't that sense gratification? Isn't that Maya? Srila Prabhupada said, how could it be? The sun is shining, the sun rays, and that is Krishna. The water is there, and Lord Krishna says, I'm the taste in water. So there's Krishna everywhere. We just have to open our eyes and see and realize. And these eyes I'm talking about, not the gross eyes that we have. Rather, the eyes of our mind. We have to awaken our mind to Krishna consciousness, to relate everything in relationship with Krishna. So the devotees were very happy, and they were constantly going to the beach and chanting the holy name, and then engaging in devotional service. So we have to be constantly, seeking to engage in devotional service. So if you are smart, you remember the smart mantra. Smartavyo satatam Vishnu vismartavyo na jatuchit sarve vidhi nishedasyor etayoreva kinkaraha. Smartavyo satatam Vishnu. Always remember Krishna, smaran, right? Vismartavyo na jatuchit. Never forget Krishna. Sarve vidhi nishedasyor. All the rules and regulations are etayoreva kinkaraha, are just subservient to these two principles. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. And if we carry out this and constantly engage our mind in carrying out, remembering Krishna when performing our different activities, our attractions to Krishna would increase. And we would feel transcendental bliss when performing, because that work would be devotional service, provided it is first on the category of pious. We should not try to do sinful activities and then say, okay, I am making it as an offering to Lord Shri Krishna. Because then we are committing namaprad as well as many other offenses at the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna. Yet at the same time, Lord Krishna is very merciful. So Lord Krishna, how is he merciful? Śukadeva Gosvāmī reveals it in the second canto. He says, Akamaha sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradihi tivrena bhakti yogena yajate purusham param. Akamaha, if you have no material desire, when you don't have material desire, our nature is to have desire. That's one of the nature of the soul. So we will have desire. So all the desires, if they are not material, they are spiritual, which means we have desire to serve Lord Shri Krishna. Sarva kamova. Sarva kamova means even if you have all kind of material desires. Moksha kama. Or if you have desire to attain liberation from this material universe, go back home. Or to merge into Brahman, even that is considered a stage of liberation as per the Shastras. Tivrena bhakti yogena. Then we should, with great enthusiasm, with great determination, we should engage in bhakti yogena. We should engage in devotional service. Yajate purusham parama. Whose devotional service? Of Param Purusha, of Lord Shri Krishna. So that has been revealed again and again. So we have been reading Srimad Bhagavatam in the 12th canto. We are nearly in the middle of 12th canto. And here this is the last instruction that Śukadeva Gosvāmī is sharing. The instruction, he is giving instruction, and he is giving this instruction pretty strongly to Parīkṣit Mahārāja. Somebody could say that that's pretty strong, means he is speaking to the emperor of the world, who has just renounced his kingdom and has sat down waiting for his death, and this is very close to the moment of his death, and he's been given very strong instructions with really lot of passion in the instructions itself. So the analogy is repeated in this, where if there is a sky in the pot, an empty pot, and then there is sky outside, then when the pot breaks, Mayavadis, they say that now they have merged into Brahman. So if they go into Brahman, well, Srila Rupa Goswami, he reveals that we are like aquatics. So when the river merges into the ocean, the aquatics still go, but they go into the ocean and they continue to do their activities. So similarly, we as living entities, even though we may merge into Brahman, but we will always have this desire to serve. And we cannot have that interaction in Brahman stage. So we have to even elevate beyond, go beyond, so that we engage in devotional service. That's why Bhakti Yoga is even higher than merging into Brahman. That is actually a curse. The devotees, they take that as curse, and Acharyas explain that it is not fully a liberated state because of our desires. We have the tendency to fall back in this material pool, the material ocean of nascence, ocean of ignorance. So it is not that the pot had a sky, pot has space, sky refers to space, and we have the space outside the pot, and when the pot breaks, the space is present along with the outer space but has its own identity and thus is carrying out various activities. So this is because of ignorance. People think that such difference lies, that the pot has different air and outside has different air. And he is giving, Śukadeva Gosvāmī is revealing similar examples, that is like looking at the reflection of the sun and then thinking it to be the same as the sun itself, which is similar to the analogy Lord Krishna reveals in chapter 15 of Bhagavad Gita. He says that this material universe is like this tree which is upside down, the roots are going up and the branches are going down, which is actually a reflection of the spiritual tree, right? And while Lord Krishna is the foundation of the spiritual tree, at the roots of this material tree, which is the reflection of the tree, spiritual tree, a perverted reflection, is where Brahma is at the roots, and then from there all different branches are emanating. Or thinking of the vital air in one body, in one living body, is different than within another body. So again, there are three different analogies, they have three different implications. So air is same, similarly yet at the same time the vital air that's flowing in one living entity's body and another living entity's body, the function they are performing is same. That is regarding our constitutional positions. We as living entities are eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna. If we don't serve Lord Shri Krishna, so we are actually, either we are serving Yogamaya, Radharani, or we are serving Maya Devi, right, Mahamaya. So it is a choice that's given to us. So we are the marginal energy, Tatashta Shakti. So at the bank of a river, you see that margin, that slanted slope. And so when the water rises, the slope goes under the water. So that's like we getting under the influence of Maya, thinking I am this body. And then when the water recedes, it goes down, then it becomes visible, part of the outer visible part, which is its true consciousness. So we living entity come under the shelter of Mahamaya, Yogamaya, right, Radharani, and that is our true state. Otherwise, how are we feeling? We are just feeling like a fish out of water. So that is an important aspect for us to understand from the bank of a river, the slope. And we have to, the only place we will be happy is when we are serving Lord Shri Krishna. When I said fish out of water, you may get confused because it also happens at the bank of a river. What does the fish want? It wants to go back in the waters, which means it wants to go back in its original habitat. Srila Prabhupada said that this material world is not a place for gentlemen or ladies, because this place is where we are having unnatural experiences. These are not natural. We are soul. So again, Śukadeva Gosvāmī reveals these aspects. He is saying, so in the end of the previous chapter, so let me cover the end part. So in the previous chapter, the last verse is where Śukadeva Gosvāmī is saying that in this assembly, we have a personality by the name Sutta Gosvāmī. And so my dear king, Mahārāja Parīkṣit, this Sutta Gosvāmī will reveal this whole Śrīmad Bhagavatam that I have just recited to you. He will be repeating it at Namasharanya, where the sages are gathered to perform great sacrifice to ward off the effect of this Kali age. And he would be speaking this Śrīmad Bhagavatam, and the head spokesperson from the sages would be Shaunaka Rishi. And then he directly dives into this particular chapter. Now, we should not be ignorant, we should not be thinking differently, rather we should be, based on the analogies, we should be carrying out our duties as our offerings at the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna to build our attraction to his lotus feet, which also requires that just because we are not seeking fruit doesn't mean that we should not be enthusiastic, doesn't mean that we should not be determined, because that would be a hurdle in our path. Srila Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Instruction, right, Updeshamrita reveals how we should be engaging in devotional service. Utsaha nishchaya dhairya tat karma pravartanat sangyataga sato vritte sadbir bhakti prasiddhati. Utsahan, with great enthusiasm, nishchaya, with great determination, dhairyat, with great patience, tat karma pravartana, we should engage in the process of devotion service. Shamanam ketanam vishnu smaranam pada sevanam archanam vandanam dasyam sakhyam atma nivedanam, the 9th process of devotion service. And then Śukadeva Gosvāmī in the 11th canto added reading and writing as well. So now they became 11. And then Srila Rupa Gosvāmī made it 64. So again, it's constantly expanding for us, giving us more options. That's always a great thing to have. Sangatyagat. See, this Sangatyagat is Asat Sangatyag, to give up the association of mundane people. So we should not take their association, rather we should give our association, and that association we can give by discussing the name, fame, glories and pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna, or at the minimum engaging them in the chanting of the holy name. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. Sato vritte. So following in the footsteps of Acharyas. So how do we follow in the footsteps of Acharyas? There are two ways of following. One is Anukaran, second one is Anusharan. Anukaran is imitating others' actions. that is not recommended, by the acharyas. Anusharan is taking shelter of their instructions, following their instructions by taking shelter. So when we take shelter and follow the instructions, we carry out the instructions of the acharyas, of the spiritual masters, then it enhances our devotion to Lord Shri Krishna. It enhances our journey, it accelerates our journey, it gives us the positive impetus. Otherwise, in the material world, greed is the impetus and lust is the effect. It's the sporadic bursting in the form of the actions are lustful. But in the case of devotion, the same lolium has been towards the instructions. We want to really carry out those instructions faithfully. So the greed is there, but with that impetus of carrying out the instructions. And with that mood, when we engage in devotion service, love is the effect, and we attain love of Godhead. Now in this chapter, Śukadeva Gosvāmī, he continues to reveal that the idea that I will die is simply the mentality of animals. Now this is pretty strong. Basically, this is in ignorance one is thinking that I will die. Because the body dies, we don't die. Right? And Lord Kṛṣṇa in Bhagavad Gita revealed this in the second chapter itself to Arjuna. Natvayevaham jatu nasam natyabdi me janadhi paha nacheveda bhavishyamaha sarve vayamataha param. Never was there a time that I did not exist, nor you, nor any of these kings, nor in the future shall any of us will cease to be. So again, Lord Krishna is revealing that we are eternal souls. It is not that the soul never takes birth, it never dies, it never ages. So again, the surprise, the Acharya, that verse reveals that this body is so amazing, right? That's an amazing verse where that it does not take birth, it does not burn, it doesn't get wet, it doesn't get split into pieces. It is eternally the same. So that aspect is there. And then we are entirely distinct. So Śukadeva Gosvāmī is telling Mahārāja Parīkṣit that you are entirely distinct as the spirit soul. You are completely distinct from this body. You will not become son of your son. Now why does he say that? Acharyas reveal, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur reveals in his commentary that Śukadeva Gosvāmī is saying is because sometimes there is so much affection one has towards one's son that at the last moment they are thinking about their sons and daughters, right? And when they think about the son, they take birth as the son of their sons, right? So the grandfather becomes the grandson, his own grandson. So that happens in the due course of cycle because of affection towards the family members. Yet at the same time, getting a material body is actually a curse. Rather, we should be meditating on Lord Shri Krishna so that we can cross over this ocean of nascence, this place of misery and temporary nature, constant transformation. And we can go back home to our true position and experience transcendental bliss, right? With full knowledge and eternity. So that is what our true nature is, and that is what we want to attain. So that is thinking that I am this body and its paraphernalia, that is in ignorance. Just like one is thinking that the fire is same as the fuel, right? So when there is wood, the fire is hidden in the wood, it's in a subtle form. And when the wood is touched to fire, then that fire invokes, and one should not think that this is same as the fire. So when the transcendental knowledge one attains, when one understands that we are living entities who are eternal servants of Lord Shri Krishna, with this transcendental knowledge, the weapon of this detachment is there in knowledge, which destroys the body's subtle mental covering. So it is that covering of thinking that I am this body and everything, in the possession of this body is mine. It destroys that covering, and the soul within the body is freed, and it exhibits its original identity. So the temporary existence of lamp, for example, that can be looked at, that there is a lamp, it has oil, it has a wick, and it has been lighted, it has a glass covering at the top so that the wind does not blow it out. The vessel, where the fuel is collected, all these are different. These are like the body. The material body is being depicted in this manner, in this analogy. While the fire that's burning, that's really making it important, is the soul. So the body of the lamp is different than the, what it causes to be in functional state, the fire. So similarly is the soul that makes this body conscious. So looking at the effect, we can understand that there must be the cause. So similarly, when we look at this body, we can understand if the body is moving, it has consciousness, that means there is a soul inside. Similarly, if this whole material universe is functioning, then there must be a person behind this material universe. And that is Vishwatma. Who is the soul of the universe? Lord Kṛṣṇa himself is the soul of the universe. He has imparted this knowledge to Brahma through the heart of Lord Brahma, so that Lord Brahma is creating this material universe. Yet it has still been run by Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. And why can't we see? Because our senses are too gross to be able to see Lord Kṛṣṇa. Behind all this, all these planets, they are floating and revolving and rotating all over the universe, as well as the tilt rotation we talked about. So finally, the combination of the material modes is the cause of this body, right? The material body, which undergoes the 6 kind of changes, right? It takes birth, it grows, it dwindles, it produces secondary products, progeny happens, sons and daughters, they are there, and then it finally ages and dies. So these 6 changes, and of course it also gets disease at times, that's another effect. So these 6 changes are with respect to the body, not with the soul. Śukadeva Gosvāmī is telling this to Parīkṣit Maharaj. And then finally he is saying that you should fix yourself in meditation unto Lord Vasudeva, and thus the bite of the snake bird will not affect you. And he is revealing that the takshak will be biting your foot. So that has already been revealed by Śukadeva Gosvāmī in his instruction. Yet what he says is amazing, and this is where Mayavadis come back and say, see, this is where they're saying that, Śukadeva Gosvāmī is saying that we are one, then Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. We are one in quality, not in quantity. Śukadeva Gosvāmī says to Parīkṣit Maharaj that you should consider, I am non-different from the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Abode. And that Absolute Truth, the Supreme Destination, is non-different from me. So again, so he is referring to the abode. So if we talk of a country, we are actually talking about the people of that country, right? We are not just talking about that country as a piece of land, and the gross aspect. We are talking about the people who reside there. America ने Iraq के साथ war किया. So if somebody says that there was a war between America and Iraq, so it was not that the land, woke up one day and then it started throwing itself and beating the other land. It was the people of this land and the people of another land, means America and Iraq, they had a war, between them. That's how we should be looking at it. That qualitatively, consider yourself to have the same consciousness, to have the same position as other living entities who are in Vaikuntha, at the Supreme Abode. So everyone is serving Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, so you would also be serving Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. So thinking in this manner, continue to serve Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. So he is already revealing this to Parīkṣit Maharaj. Who is revealing this? Śukadeva Gosvāmī is revealing this to Parīkṣit Maharaj. That you should think in this manner, so you will not be affected when this body will burn after the snake bird Takshak. The Takshak is the younger brother of, whose younger brother is he? Anantashesh and Vasuki. And one of his brother is Kaliya. So again, we have covered those stories earlier. So Takshak happens to be also a very good friend of Indradev, right? The king of the demigods, because they are also half brother, half cousins. That's another aspect. So here, having understood this, Now Śukadeva Gosvāmī congratulates Parīkṣit Maharaj. He is saying that I know that you are well established in your devotion. Now when somebody hears this, they get surprised. So Srila Śukadeva Swami as well as Srila Jiva Gosvāmī have given some amazing commentary in this particular aspect. And there is a reference given of Śrīmad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 19th chapter, when Parīkṣit Maharaj had taken, decided to fast on the bank of the Ganges, which is, in New Delhi, means again in Delhi, at the bank of Yamuna. So that's also referred to as Ganges after Sangam. So he is fasting for 7 days, right, constantly. What does he say? It is very important for us to understand. Tam mopayatam pariyantu vipra ganga cha devi dhrita chittamishe dvijota praristah kuru kas takshako va dashtva alam gayata vishnu gatha. This is Parīkṣit Maharaj praying, he is requesting all the rishis who have gathered, seeing this emperor of the world renouncing his kingdom and fasting for 7 days. The translation by Srila Prabhupada reveals Parīkṣit Maharaj, what is his statement that he is presenting to the Brahmanas? He is saying, "O Brahmanas, just accept me as a completely surrendered soul and let Mother Ganges, the representative of the Lord, also accept me in that way. For I have already taken the lotus feet of the Lord into my heart. Let the snake bird or whatever magical thing the Brahman boy has created bite me at once. I only desire that you all continue singing the deeds of Lord Vishnu." So this is where it is being revealed that actually Parīkṣit Maharaj is already a pure devotee of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa from the very beginning. Right? Parīkṣit means examiner. So what is he examining? When he was in the womb of his mother, right? Uttara, wife of Abhimanyu. At that time, he was saved by who? Lord Vishnu, Lord Kṛṣṇa himself, from the weapon that was shot by Ashwathama. So Ashwathama shot a Brahmastra to kill the last, member of the dynasty in the Pandavas. So Abhimanyu's son was still a posthumous son, he was still in the womb, and so he was attacked. At that time, Lord Kṛṣṇa himself came. So Parīkṣit Maharaj saw Lord Kṛṣṇa, waving his Kaumudaki Gada, and the Sudarshan Chakra was protecting the womb from outside, but there was heat coming because of this Brahmastra that was shot by Ashwathama. So Lord Kṛṣṇa was, swirling his Kaumudaki to ward off the heat effect so that the baby is not affected. And at that time, Parīkṣit Maharaj saw Lord Kṛṣṇa. So when he took birth, he was constantly examining anyone and everyone he met to see that is this Lord Kṛṣṇa. So he was constantly remembering at every moment of his life Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. From that moment onwards, even before the birth itself, he had seen Lord Kṛṣṇa, so he was constantly meditating on Lord Kṛṣṇa. So he was already a pure devotee of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. Then you would say, wait a minute, if he was already a pure devotee of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, and then Śukadeva Gosvāmī is reciting Śrīmad Bhagavatam, then what is the purpose? Well, this Śrīmad Bhagavatam is recited more for us than for Parīkṣit Maharaj. It is more for the people in this Kali age, right? Kṛṣṇe sodhamo padyate dharma jnanadhibi saha kala dashtam drisham isha puranarko adhunitata. So again, Kṛṣṇe swadhamo padyate. Lord Kṛṣṇa has, when he returns back to his abode, right? He returns with dharma jnana adi. So all the great qualities like dharma, the religion, as well as jnana, knowledge, they are all, as personified, as personalities, they are accompanying Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa when he is leaving this material universe, to go back to Golok Vrindavan. And at that time, people who have lost their vision in the darkness, in the dark night of ignorance of this Kali age, this effect of Kali Age will be destroyed by Śrīmad Bhagavatam, which is Puranarko, which is like a Purana Granth, like a brilliant sun. So this Śrīmad Bhagavatam has arisen as a brilliant sun upon the departure of Lord Shri Krishna to give light to all of us who are in this material universe, in this darkness, so that we can get the light. And when we follow the light, we will be able to go back home, back to Godhead. So that is an important lesson that we get from this chapter. This is where this chapter ends. And so, just like Parīkṣit Maharaj was constantly thinking and meditating on Lord Shri Krishna, we should engage every moment of our life in remembering Lord Shri Krishna, His name, form, activities, pastimes. And this process is very simple when we take to the chanting of the holy name. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. Hare Kṛṣṇa, dear devotees. Please join us for Nrsimhadev prayers. Grantra Śrīmad Bhagavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai, Anant Kori Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Namaste
जय, प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, शिला प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। हरे कृष्णा